Ana violonchelo, lluvia y corazón, Ana niña verde de un abril mejor. Ana luna, lluvia, Ana tierra y sol, Ana viento y árbol, Ana luz y flor, Ana hermana humana de cualquier color, Ana risa nueva del eterno amor. Cuando Ana crezca el mundo, será o ya no estará, será ceniza y humo, será canto de pan, la luz mirará ruinas o crecerá la flor, con Ana, con la vida y con la bomba, no. Ana hacia la vida y a la bomba, no. Ana hacia la vida y a la bomba, no. Y a la bomba, no. Ana no a la guerra, Ana hacia el amor, Ana no al que mata, Ana hacia el cantor, Ana no a los dogmas, si a la abierta voz, Ana hacia la vida y a la bomba, no. Ana ocarina, Ana bandoneón, Ana mandolina, truca y tambor, Ana violonchelo, lluvia y corazón, Ana niña verde de un abril mejor. Ana luna y lluvia, Ana tierra y sol, Ana viento y árbol, Ana luz y flor, Ana hermana humana de cualquier color, Ana risa nueva del eterno amor. Ana ocarina, Ana bandoneón, Ana mandolina, truca y tambor, Ana violonchelo, lluvia y corazón, Ana niña verde de un abril mejor. Ana luna, lluvia, Ana tierra y sol, Ana viento y árbol, Ana luz y flor, Ana hermana humana de cualquier color, Ana risa nueva del eterno amor. Cuando Ana crezca el mundo, será o ya no estará, será ceniza y humo, será canto de pan, la luz mirará ruinas o crecerá la flor, con Ana, con la vida y con la bomba, no.
I want to welcome you to Jean Weisman's memorial. Unfortunately, it's remote and virtual, but in any case, we're here. And most of you know that she died rather unexpectedly and rather suddenly on May 6th. I want to give special thanks to Zola. A number of people on this chat were very grateful to her. One of Jean's dearest friends in Cuba, who is a university professor of sociology, her name is Marta Nunez. Some of you on here know her. She's University of Havana professor of sociology. And she wrote, "Although death is a terrible habit, I could never refer to Jean Weisman as someone who has left us. I met her in 1990 at the conference called The Future of Socialism, organized by Monthly Review. Jean had been committed to the Cuban Revolution long before, so as soon as we met, she invited me to speak at City College. Since then, we have been close friends. I appreciate in Jean three main qualities. First, she was truly devoted to create a better world for all human beings. And to do so, Jean fought daily against all sorts of discrimination, be it racism, gender, or toward the poor. Creating the Jean and Martha Weisman Social Justice Immigrant Scholarship Fund is an example, and it is. We're going to talk about it a bit. Secondly, she shared her knowledge and resources with her Cuban compañeros in order to communicate to the world, and especially to the U.S. scholars, the advances of my country since 1959, focusing mainly on Cuban women. Between 1993 and 1994, Jean developed a case study with a group of Cuban women who had been domestic workers up to the first years of the 1960s, following their road to become public employees. She practiced in-depth interviews with almost 20 women in Havana, and in the midst of the worst crisis that my country has gone through since 1959. The result was the documentary film From Domestica to Compañeras, directed by Belkis Vega, that was awarded at the 2007 LASA Congress. Based on another study by Jean, Belkis produced a second video with the Mujeres Martianas. Jean had interviewed outstanding Cuban women who had been underground fighters against Batista, who had previously fought against the Mercado dictatorship. Jean was carrying out her last case study with women underground fighters against Batista belonging to a younger generation. She produced more than 15 in-depth interviews. Third and lastly, Jean Weisman was a very authentic human being, which meant for Cubans that she followed a very straight line during her life in relation to Cuba. Thank you, Jean Weisman, for still being around. Marta Nunez. So next, I want to invite the president of City College.
Thank you, Dina, and thank all of you for being here. I think this is a wonderful moment to pay tribute to Jean. You know, a lot of times when I speak, I figure that the first thing I have to do is say something about City College so people understand the context. And I'm looking around the checkerboard on my screen and I see beards and I see some white hair and I see people that I know CUNY and City College. And so I'm gonna dispense with that a little bit. But what I will say is this, that you know, we are an institution that has always been dedicated to this phrase from our founding, the whole people, serving the whole people, making sure everybody has a chance. We were just, again, recognized just a few days ago by Brookings Institution as the third most successful school in the country in promoting social mobility. And I say that because, you know, I've always thought, apart from the moments when we protest and the moments when we come out on the street to demand change, even in between those times, just by existing, we're an activist campus. We are a campus that is dedicated to disrupting the existing social order, to identifying every generation. Who is it that is excluded from our main institutions? You know, is it African Americans? Is it, you know, Jewish people? Is it undocumented immigrants coming to the country? Wherever that line is between the people who are included in our institutions and those who have been excluded, that's where you find City College. The Center for Worker Education, I'm never supposed to say this publicly, because I'm supposed to love everybody equally. But this is literally my favorite place on campus, and it is because, you know, the one thing that we say to all City College students, because so many of them are the first in their families to attend college, is that by going to CCNY or going to another CUNY school, you're changing the whole history of your family. And at CWE, what you see is people who, for whatever reason, early in life, because they had to work, because they had to take care of a parent, because they weren't allowed by a husband to go to college. You see people coming in at some point in their life when they're 30 or 40 or 50 or older and deciding that their life won't be complete without a college degree and everything that opens up. And so what you see there all the time, every year, is mothers and fathers graduating alongside children who are just a few years behind them. And in that act of going to school and studying and opening up opportunity for themselves, they're modeling and making possible for their children a future as an educated member of our society. And that to me is right exactly where CCNY has always been.
Great. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure. Anika, do you want to say a couple of words, just since you were so helpful and made this happen? And she's in Germany, by the way. It's late at night there, and you look so perky. I can't believe it.
I'll keep it short. I just want to thank you, Dina. It's been such a pleasure to work with you, and I want to thank all of you that you let us be part of your community and that you share so many personal details with us today about your sister. And I think this fund will have such a tremendous impact on our college. And I've been a student at CCNY myself, and it has made the biggest impact on my life, beyond everything I could have ever dreamed of. And so I know the scholarship fund will have such a wonderful impact on our students. And so thank you. It's a pleasure to work with you, and I look forward to find out more about your family today. And I'm sending my best wishes from Germany.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I'm glad to share some remembrances of Jean. I met Jean in 1990, my first year at City College. And I cannot see my life in City College and in solidarity with Latin America or in the union activism without the presence of Jean to my side. Jean was the first person that got me involved into the labor union at City College, and Jean got me to work with her, and I'm proud, and it's one of the most exciting experiences I had as a faculty member at City College, when we took, in 2 consecutive occasions, we took students, from City College to Cuba in 2 long trips. And actually, no one remembers this, but these were the first trips that were breaking the blockade that was established by the Reagan administration to Cuba. After that trip, we became more and more involved together in working together in solidarity work and in the union. But one of the most important things, one of the nicest things of Jean, she had this fantastic quality to engage students and build, community or group of students around her, or sharing those students with other members of the faculty of CUNY. I sorely miss Jean, and we share many common friends in Cuba, and actually some of the people that you mentioned, Marta Núñez, I had the privilege to be with Jean in some of the interviews with these women in Cuba. With some of them, I still have contact, and all them, Jean was loved in Cuba by the people. She touched many people in Cuba, not only through her academic work, but the human qualities that Jean had, I don't know, I don't have much to say, but I miss Jean very much.
I had many very interesting conversations with Jean, because I work for an organization called Partners of the Americas, and we do a lot of community development projects as well as exchange programs with Latin America. And so Jean and I would talk a lot, particularly about Dominican Republic, because we did have an organization there, and she was very much involved in women's issues, domestic violence, and working with domestic workers and things like that. So I regret that, so I married into the family, so I don't regret that, but it did give me the opportunity to know Dina, Martha, Bob, who's here, and Jean, whenever we could see each other. And she did come to DC a few times, whereas where I live, and was able to stay with us. So we had many good conversations.
Thank you.
There you are.
I met Jean in 1969 at the STS convention in Chicago. And,
Can I just interrupt? If anyone else wants to speak, just go to the chat and write to me, and I'll know you want to speak. Okay, I'm sorry.
And, through living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin together, where we were both involved in Black Panther Defense, and Jean started a people's health care clinic. And even when I stayed in Milwaukee and she moved back to New York. And I think it's interesting when people are talking about her retirement party. I went to her retirement party, I guess about 7, 8 years ago when she retired. And it was so wonderful. All these people were getting up and saying how crucial she was to them helping her finish CUNY, because her specific thing was she found financial aid packages for non-traditional students. And, then very sadly that very soon after she retired, she started to have, health issues, and she had some wonderful things planned for her retirement that she couldn't do. And the thing that it made me think that I think it's, we all like to try to control things, and I think most people here are probably activists, and we like to, we can transform reality, but that some of this is just luck. And Jean had bad luck with health in her later years, which aborted her life way too quickly. But she'll certainly always be present for me.
Thank you. The next person claims to have known Jean the most, the longest, furthest back. I think I get that, but real close, Lou.
Yeah, as I said, I think I go back longer, except for Dina, longer than anybody here in knowing Jean. It goes back to the 40s, I guess. Our parents were good friends and commies, and then we lived in Williamsburg with loads of progressives in that neighborhood at the time in the 40s. And then we moved out to Queens. And their family had such an important impact on me. And, I didn't know Jean as well. Her father was my art teacher. We spent some time together. Then I went to Queens College, and where Dina was. And Dina was instrumental in getting me active in the political movement during the World's Fair. She convinced me to march over to the World's Fair in the 60s. I always say that was a major part of my becoming political. I think, is it Mark Levy who was there too?
Mark's on here.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I saw the name. There are people here I haven't seen in many, many decades, and it's a thrill, Well, anyway, then I connected with Nancy in the mid-70s, and she was a college professor in Brooklyn College and very active in the union with Jean. And so that's how I got to see Jeannie again. I was living in Park Slope on 6th. She was on 17th, I think, or somewhere up there. And we got to know each other again, which was, terrific. And in Cuba, I went to visit Susan Metz in Cuba. We did. And she's there too. And on our way out, I think, towards the end of our trip, I ran into Jeannie, who was running a trip in Cuba. And I was so impressed. She really was terrific. We used to see her at parties at Susan and other places. And she was someone I'll always remember.
Okay, so next up is Toby.
Well, Jeannie and I met in 1968 in the Wisconsin Draft Resistance Union. The WDRU was a tremendous source of satisfaction and many conversations over all the 50 years. She had a presence and a strength. It was a quiet strength. And she brought that strength to everything that she did, including facing her illness. Jeannie and I got reunited in a sense, physically in New York in our friendship. And I had been going through a very tough breakup. Jeannie was extremely supportive. And She helped me get into the affordable housing I'm still in, thanks to Jeannie, and who always fought for affordable housing. I think it's tremendously appropriate that the day of Jeannie's memorial is the day that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of DACA. And it's something Jeannie would have been thrilled about, because Jeannie always fought. Jeannie always fought hard as she could for folks without documents, for folks who were mistreated, and for folks who were marginalized by the powers that be. Jeannie worked so hard in all her years as director of Center for Worker Education to make sure that everyone got every document from their home country, from their high school here, every dollar of possible scholarship money, every door that Jeannie could open, Jeannie opened with many other people in common.
Thank you, Toby.
Thank you, Dina. I am here, and I wanted to say a few words about Jean, whom I miss dearly. We first met in 1968 in Wisconsin, in Madison, probably like Toby at some thing for the Draft Resistance Union, in which I was very, very active. And then we went different ways. You know, Jean went to get factory work somewhere in Wisconsin, and I had a fellowship with my wife, and I had a fellowship, and we moved to Paris. But later, when the Center for Worker Education at City College bloomed, and I was its executive director, Jean showed up one day, or called me one day, looking for a job in New York, and she had heard about it and wanted a job there. We didn't have one at the time, but she got a job somewhere else in City College, and the next year we had an opening, and she, of course, got that job. And we worked together for many years. She was wonderful. I mean, she was very, very supportive of students. She was the go-to person. As others who are here tonight will tell you, that when anything happened in the evening, or when anybody needed anything, they would go to Jean. And she made people feel welcome and comfortable and and she was supportive of them, whether they were applying for financial aid or trying to do something else. And, and she was steadfast in her political beliefs. And there are not all that many people that we have the good fortune to know who are steadfast in their political beliefs. But Jean was one of them. And I miss her. Students who knew her, faculty members there who knew her, probably my friends from Wisconsin, but it's been so many years now. And we'll miss her dearly.
Jean was one of the key people starting the new caucus that brought the present leadership to power in 2000. And we were organizing intensely for the 5 or 6 years before that, so that we could effectively win power in the union, which we did, which is anyone on this call who's ever tried to work in a rank and file level knows that's the dream. And but it was mostly a professors' union. I mean, that's what the vast majority of the members were, professors. And when we all got together, we thought, oh, right, and professional staff. But every time we spoke, we'd say, oh, and the faculty. And Jean would say, and the professional staff. We'd say, oh, right, and the professional staff. The faculty and the professional staff. Jean was so clear that we had to represent everyone. And of course, she was a member of the professional staff, but it was not in her self-interest. It was in the interest of inclusion, which is really, I think, a theme in Jean's life, of deep inclusion and respect for people, and wanting to make sure that as many people could have respect and show respect as possible. And she continued throughout to be a real stalwart in the union. And once we did take power, and she was somebody you could always rely on to do the work, to raise the points that at least I felt were important. And then we also worked together in the Brooklyn Food Coalition, which existed for about 8 years. And she was part of, and I was too, the labor committee there. And, she was always advancing the rights and the conditions of workers. And she was very consistent in her life. And she was also a very soft and warm person who tried to be good to people. And I think she was very conscious about that. So I appreciate her on so many levels, and we will all miss her.
I met Jean in the Teachers Committee for Latin America in the 80s. She became a model of a talented organizer for me. We had a party in my brownstone for the Teachers Union from El Salvador. Jean made a chart of everybody's assignments, who came before, who came after. And I said to myself, I'm going to learn from this woman. I'm going to learn that kind of consistency and responsibility and taking everything into consideration. And then when I graduated, when I retired from teaching high school and I wanted to learn Spanish, she said, go to Cuba. And I said, oh, Jean, all the left goes to Cuba. They don't need me. She said, Susan, before you decide where you're going to learn Spanish, I went to Cuba. And I said, thank you, Jean, because she bequeathed me the women that she had worked with, who all learned from her in the similar way that we all did. I think she was a humble person, and where she went, she made a contribution. So she's contributed enormously to my life, and I treasure the lessons, and I will follow in her footsteps. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Zoila. Thank you, cousins, and thank you, friends. And let's, as Toby said, Jean Weisman, presente.
I know Jean from the latter part of the 70s when we as Black women were attempting to explain our perspectives and views about feminism. And so what we did through our work, Jean's work working with CSPES in Latin America, and my work with the National Alliance of Third World Women, in New York, what we did, we formed a study group. And our focus was on women, the origins of women's oppression. Engels, yes. Marx, yes. But we wanted to go back further. And I remember, that's why I say Jean she's a scholar activist. That's how we define ourselves. And so we did a study on Akan women, going all the way back to pre-times when African women in the areas of Ghana were actually, they were mining using porcupine needles. And Jean was fascinated with this whole history. And we, as a study group of just women, we came together and we put together perhaps a document that I don't know where it is today, but certainly it's a piece of scholarship that's worth unearthing. And then from that experience, of course, I worked together in Cuba, but she also encouraged me. She was attending Rutgers, and we knew that if we were going to get into the academy, she knew this before, well, I knew it too, but she knew that in order to do that, we needed to have we needed the credentials. So we graduated from Rutgers School of Labor Studies. And from there, it was Steve, if you're there, Steve, yes, it was Jean who brought me to the Center for Worker Education.
I remember that.
And we just had labor studies. We felt that labor history and labor studies was fundamental to the experiences of working women, particularly Black and other women of color. And we were able to formulate a curriculum that really addressed that. We did women in work. We did the history of Black women in labor studies. We did everything. And Jean was in the forefront of really pushing us and helping that center to become a foundation that the president is talking about. That was the foundation. And Steve and those of us who were there helped to build that foundation before it went to 25 downtown. I guess the last thing that I want to say is that it was someone mentioned, I think it was Toby who mentioned the word trust. And she was a friend that we could trust. She was a sister that we embraced, that we could trust. And the sisters in Cuba, Nama Gilead, and all those sisters, Geraldo probably knows that sister, they speak so highly of her. And because of the blockade today, and Dina has alluded to this, because of the blockade, they can't access Zoom there. And so that's why Dina is attempting to find a way to get this beautiful memorial together. So I say, yes, Jean Weisman Presente as a sister, an anti-racist, very important, and really understanding what people are talking about today when we talk about Black Lives Matter. She understood that, and she became a part of that struggle even before there was the call for it. So thank you so much, Dina, for pulling this wonderful memorial together. And Anika, thank you. And we say internationalism. Jean was an internationalist. She was a feminist, and she was a sister in the struggle. Thank you.
I just wanted to express my honor to be participating in this memorial for our loving Jean. I learned, like you, Dina, a lot about her. My short time being with Jean, it was enough time to know how wonderful, brilliant, and beautiful person she was. And I've been quiet all this day. I know Toby. I didn't call anybody, but I'm working. I'm still working in this place, and every time I pass by Jean's room, it's feelings for me, and I miss her a lot. And it's like I say, now I feel more important to be, in Jean's life and knowing all these memorials, all these things about her.
Violonchelo, lluvia y corazón.